Writing dialogue has always been my Achilles heel. It's so strange to write dialogue for a character that is so unlike me that consequently I always ended up making a story where everyone just sounded like a copy of myself. And it is understandable. Writing dialogue is quite difficult, especially for introverts and socially awkward people, and let's not fool ourselves, most of us are writers, or nerds, or artists. But is dialogue even that important? Well, yes it is. But why? Why are there so many examples in big multi-million-dollar movies where the dialogue sounds like it's written by a 5-year-old?
I don't like sand.
And how do we even distinguish good dialogue from the bad? Dialogue is important because it can be a mirror into the personality of your character. It shows their worldview, their relationship with others, their desires, and their fears. But dialogue can be used as a narrative tool to foreshadow certain events, or it can cause conflict or create a scene so tense that no Mortal Kombat level of power level can even come close to it. Dialogue is the basic form of communication for humans. We communicate our thoughts through speech. Even right now, I'm communicating my ideas by speaking to you. That is why dialogue is extremely important. Your characters reveal themselves, what they think about others, as well as speak to your audience. First and foremost, good dialogue uses the fewest words to tell you as much as possible about someone's personality. Let me give you an example. In Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, one of the characters, Bato, is a veteran from a public security unit, and he's having a difficult discussion with his team leader about the state of their Tachikoma unit. Tachikomas are those cute little robots with the demeanor of a 6-year-old.
Operation was a success!
Bato is very close to them and has a father-like relationship with them. He himself is often shown as a gregarious goofball, but during this conversation it is revealed that their AI is showing signs of dangerous self-development, and as a result they need to be separated and delegated to less important governmental jobs. Bato, of course, is not happy about this, but he does not respond like his usual goofball self. He asks only,
"So are you giving me an order as my superior?"
I am.
This may sound small, but this shows a lot about his personality. It is well established that he is emotionally attached to those robots throughout the entire series, and by asking this simple question, he reveals that, in the end, he is a professional in a high governmental security unit. He accepts this outcome and swallowed his emotions. This question is him probing for a possibility to protest this decision in a professional manner. If it's not an order, he can do something about it, he can argue against it. However, if it is an order, then, as a soldier at heart, he will accept it, no matter how bad it feels, without any complaints. And now contrast this with Avatar. If you have never watched that movie, I would highly recommend it, because it's a genius example how a horrible movie that was massively successful managed to do that because of pretty visuals and massive marketing. Anyway, in Avatar we have a typical Pocahontas plot, the quote-unquote evil outsiders who came for resources, and the indigenous Na'vi, which are the epitome of the noble savage trope. In this part of the movie, the humans are planning to destroy a sacred tree belonging to the Na'vi, and the main protagonist, the traitor and heretic, Jake Sully, get into the artificial body of a Na'vi, which he earlier used to form a diplomatic relationship with them, and rush towards the Na'vi to warn them. When he gets in front of the tribe and their chieftain, he clearly tries to quickly explain to them that they should leave or they're all gonna die.
You have to leave or you're gonna die.
Sounds okay so far, but then he proceeds to say this.
They sent me here to learn your ways, so one day I could bring this message and then you would believe it.
So he clearly wants to warn them. We are shown throughout the movie that he grew closer to them and really want to save their lives, but then he self-sabotage. First of all, this piece of dialogue is here to increase tension and create more drama, make the stakes even bigger, because the Na'vi will now fight on and die instead of retreating and living. But that makes no sense from the perspective of Jake. He's supposed to help them, I guess, This entire piece of dialogue is very confusing. He starts talking that he was building relations to what? Tell them to withdraw from the tree from the very beginning? That was his goal? He tells them to run away, to save themselves, but then he crumbles emotionally towards someone he cares about and say things that makes them not want to run away. He just admitted that if they run away, they will now do exactly as he, now the traitor in their eyes, wants them to do. So either he is an emotional child who wants to simp for his girlfriend and be honest just for the sake of it and send them to their deaths from his perspective, or he is secretly a narcissist who consciously self-sabotaged this conversation because he wants them to fight and die and be part of this resistance against oppression. Of course, the second option would be far more interesting because we could explore his broken personality, but based on the rest of the plot, I don't think the writers were smart enough to even think about this angle. Either way, you can clearly see two examples of veterans working for a high professional organization with a military background who supposedly are dutiful and care about something that is being endangered. But in the first one we get a short piece of dialogue that subtly tells us a lot about his personality, and the other one in which we sacrifice a character's personality and intelligence just so we can have an emotional scene that wrap up the stakes. In this example, I want to focus on the flow of the conversation. I mentioned previously that a piece of dialogue can build far more tension between two characters because the stakes can still be balancing between life or death, but instead of physical combat, this tension can be tipped into either side by a simple word that is spoken or any sound of uncertainty. Combat through speech is a craft much more difficult to show because it requires all characters to act on their own interest and be competent without degrading their personality in an artificial way, whereas physical combat is far more simplistic in setting up. In the sci-fi show The Expanse, there is a great quote-unquote combat scene in the form of an interview. We are shown a scene of a peace summit where a soldier from Mars is being questioned by high-ranking politicians from Earth about an incident that almost started a devastating war. Sergeant Draper clearly says things that she was told to say by her superiors, but Avasarala picks it up and tries to maneuver her. It starts slow and soft. They talk about seemingly meaningless subjects.
My family has a long tradition of military service. I'm sure yours does too. Tell me, if you could choose, would you still serve?
Yes, ma'am. I want to do my part to make Mars a new Earth.
An entire nation dedicated to a common goal. A dear friend told me that. He wanted to retire to Mars.
Avasarala tries to show sympathy. She small talks, finds interests and backgrounds that they share. She's warm and kind, and she gives a vibe of a caring mother. She compliments her and tries to show her perspective on the matter. Then she's interrupted by the opposing side since, well, they're experienced speakers as well and they know what she's trying to do.
It's easy to forget.
With all due respect, madam, where are you going with this?
Wherever I goddamn like.
You see, this was a setup to make Draper a bit warmer towards her. Now when she burst at the person that interrupted her and broke the good warm mother vibe, she directed the negative energy at the interruption. Now with some goodwill bought, she continues on, but this time she finally starts the actual questioning and slowly but surely puts some pressure on Sergeant Draper.
Do you believe, after all that hard work, that Travis would jeopardize the lives of his fellow soldiers?
No,
No? Then why would he open fire without orders?
I don't know. He
Then why did he fire?
Well,
What was the reason?
But seeing again that their puppet is losing control, Martian officials again interrupt and stop the questioning with a lazy excuse.
Sergeant Draper has been through a severe traumatic event. She needs to rest.
But this time it gives more time to Draper, who regains control after this pressure of questions and becomes withdrawn, shattering any chance of getting any information out of her. This scene shows a battle of words between diplomatic representative from different factions and a questioned soldier who is here just to tell a convenient story that was scripted beforehand, but also has her own agenda. The flow of the conversation is masterfully executed. The questions are emotional and manipulative in the beginning, especially mixed with the warmth and good faith, but as the pressure starts, they become more logical, which is a better angle of attack against a soldier with a strict mind. And contrast that with this. In the first scene of Force Awakens, when Poe, a member of the Resistance, is captured by Kylo Ren, we witnessed a short interrogation.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
No man gave it to you.
It's just very hard to understand you with all the...
Search him.
Well, it's actually just a joke, which not only completely kills the tone of the scene, but it also makes no sense within those very few established minutes. This entire scene opens with a raid of this village, a shootout, and then a cold-blooded murder of Poe's close friend. How do we know he was his close friend? Because they had a small piece of dialogue beforehand, and Poe decided to emotionally lashed out on his murderer instead of running away, which would be more logical and safe solution for the Resistance, as he is in possession of critical information that could change the war. So he got emotional when he witnessed his death, he lashed out, and then he get captured. And then, when he kneels next to the corpse of his freshly deceased close friend, he says this.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first?
It is not only extremely inappropriate, it also makes him look like an insane person, and we know that he isn't. But the writers decided to just write it here because it would be funny to break the seriousness of the scene. Out of script T here, I wanted to write a rant about this specific scene, but I cannot be angry because sometimes there's so much wrong with a scene, so much wrong with something. You just don't know where to start. Like, okay, imagine that you are somewhere, right? And you just witnessed your close friend, someone who you are very close with, right? Getting killed in cold blood, right? His murderer catches you. He put you next to his body, like you kneel in front of his murderer, next to your friend's deceased body that is still fresh and warm. You look at his murderer and you crack a joke. Like, I don't even know what to say. Anyway, and that is all for today. I hope that you enjoyed those examples that I just gave you, and like this last part, I just didn't know what to say. It was so bad. There's so much wrong with that. Anyway, subscribe if you want to see more things like that, and well, see you when I see you.